You're listening to WCAT Radio, your home for authentic Catholic programming.
So you're into philosophy?
Well, my husband is the one that was in the philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more the every person. He bounced stuff off of me, and a lot of times I disagreed with him.
Yeah.
But he wanted to start a center for the study of the great ideas with Mortimer Adler.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that was his mentor, because when he was becoming an architect, his boss took him to a Great Books meeting.
Oh.
And that's when he was like bowled away by what he didn't know, because he had gone to Lane Tech, which is a school, a technical school.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how he started out. So he had never read these things.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, earlier, I'm going to public school. And then my father says, you're going to Catholic school. I said, well, what if I don't want to? He said, oh, you'll be glad that you went. Someday you'll thank me. And I took a deep breath and said, yeah, right. So I had that background, but he never had that. And he was 9 years older. So he was blown away. The Bible, when he read that, and the way you could look at things and all these ideas that he had never really thought about. And he wanted to know who started it. And it was Mortimer Adler.
Mm-hmm.
So it just so happened that Mortimer Adler lived 2 blocks south of us in Chicago on the same street.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so Adler, I could call him Mortimer Adler. Maybe that's nicer than Adler, but I'm so used to doing that. This is the only website that he sanctioned.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're both on the front cover, CEO kind of and president. And they had tons of meetings. He picked him up every morning and took him home at night, because he was older. He was like in his 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe he was just 80. And they had nothing but talks. I was privileged to go to some luncheons, because Dr. Adler really had a penchant for the fine food, fine everything. So he was great to be around. And he was a curmudgeon, and he didn't take a lot of he didn't have a lot of patience. But I thought he was charming, because that was really him. And he only got impatient when somebody really did something stupid. But that was my husband too. So the two of them got along just fine. And they started the greatideas.org. And Sebastian was helping me fix it, bring it more up to date. And he had someone also help him. And then he started working on it. I mean, it's a lot of work to do a really great website where it's easy to maneuver and user-friendly. So my husband put together a store of all the goodies that Dr. Adler had done, and of which we have control over. And that's with Encyclopedia Britannica on a lot of it. But some things are strictly ours, that were tapes that Dr. Adler had made when he had the Institute for Philosophical Research in California. And we got 22 of those. So no matter how old they are, they're black and white. They're still informative, and just as if they were more modern. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So that's how I got involved. My husband, we worked together a lot. We could work together easily, it was very easy to set that up. He was the boss, and I was under him.
Sure.
So I helped him, and that's how it began. And now, he passed away in 2017, and Dr. Adler was gone in 2002. And he had moved to California for his wife, because that's where she was from, and she wanted to end her life up there. And then I lost my husband in 2017 and inherited all this good stuff, which of course he knew a million times more than I knew about everything. He'd read all of his books and everything.
Hmm.
and Aristotle and all that. But
Yeah. Yeah.
so that was my job.
Hmm.
What happened?
Sounds like it might have been your life project.
Yeah, it was okay as long as he was there.
Yeah.
But the involvement,
Yeah.
when that's your dream,
Hmm.
you are extremely involved. And there were times, I will be honest, that it was too involved. It got too heavy. Sometimes he'd wake up in the middle of the night and he'd say, let's have a meeting.
Oh.
So we'd go in the den and he'd be looking at me, and then he'd bring up some subject
Hmm.
that he wanted to discuss. And I said, okay, we'll see what happens. But it was usually a subject that we disagreed on. So it's like he couldn't sleep until he got some resolution, which probably happened so that I could go to sleep.
Yeah.
But he was a very interesting man. Dr. Adler was very interesting. You could sit and talk to both of them about so many things. And I really had a fondness for Dr. Adler. I really did. I talked to him about other things, movies. I didn't talk to him about philosophy.
Yeah.
Because it was enough. He liked other things too. He loved movies and good food.
Good.
So he would ask me questions. Did you see that movie?
Hmm.
I wasn't quite sure what happened. I said, oh, well, sit down, I'll tell you. So we threw seminars for him as well. And the last one was at the Cultural Center, which was very full, very successful. And he was having a little bit of trouble by then in speaking clearly. So my husband was up there speaking, would reiterate sometimes if he couldn't hear something.
Right.
His mind was fine all the way through. Yeah, they were like two peas in a pod.
Sometimes people are meant to meet, I think, when that's
Yeah. He was blown away. He told me all about it. Of course, I had read those things because I had a liberal arts education. And then I went to Sacred Heart in Lake Forest here. It was named Barat, B-A-R-A-T. It's a French order. And I love French. And my father gave me 3 choices. So I took Lake Forest. I'm not too dumb. So because the others I wanted to get away. It was a little bit of space between us. And I'm not Catholic. I was Greek Orthodox, still am. And but I love the nuns. I love their dedication, and I never met a bad one. And we had to take religion. I think there were 4 Greeks. We had to take religion because they said, I love their rationalization. If we didn't take that religion course, then we would have an advantage in study hall over the other Catholic girls who had to take it. I said, well, that's pretty good. I've got to say, I didn't mind it. I actually liked it. And I had certain questions, and sometimes they like my questions, and, to throw in the differences. There are differences.
I'm sorry, you said you were Orthodox. What kind of Orthodox?
Greek Orthodox.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my best friends is in an Eastern order, not Orthodox, just an Eastern rite of Catholicism. And I've never seen such beauty. When you look at the actual, the actual Eucharist, the Eucharistic celebration, it's amazing to me. What they wear, how everything is like perfect, and beautiful.
You mean when you take confession and then have the Eucharist after?
No, I mean watching the actual liturgy.
Yes, it is beautiful.
Yeah, the actual liturgy is beautiful and rich. It reminds me of like something that would be done in a king's palace. It's just rich and beautiful.
And the icons too. I was married in the church over here. Where do you live?
Now I live in Vermont. I've worked in Connecticut for many years, 27 years actually. And for much of that, I lived in Connecticut. And then when I remarried, we moved to Vermont. I still worked in Connecticut. I just go down and stay during the work days, you know.
Mhm.
I'm a lifelong New Englander.
Yeah, well, I think it's beautiful. We lived in upstate New York. That's as close as I got.
Mm-hmm.
But I loved it. I mean, because Chicago is not really very landscaped, if you know what I mean. It's flat.
Yeah.
Flat nothingness. And so Barrow, being up in Lake Forest with the moraines, it was beautiful up there. All the seasons were beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, I had mothers there. They were mothers in my St. Thomas Aquinas High School. These are all big names, you know. I didn't even realize it. You know, they were sisters.
Mm-hmm.
And I really loved the religion class because then I could see the differences and question.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, some of the nuns weren't thrilled with my questions when I said, I don't think that's fair. And she told me to sit down. She used my Greek name, or my maiden name. She'd say, Spiridakis, sit down. That was the end of that whole mortal sin venture. Yeah. But she didn't do it in an ugly way. She was, I knew the answer when she said that. She wanted to hear about that one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was like if I lived a great life, good life, and I committed a mortal sin of some kind, and I got hit by a bus.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, why would I go to hell? I should go to heaven. I mean, I should go to heaven. I mean, it's not fair.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what she told me to sit down. I want them to fix that, you know. And we don't have a purgatory either. So.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So.
purgatory's a good place. Purgatory is a good place. If you go there, you know you're going to eventually make it to heaven.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. Yeah, they don't really. It's really based on old Jewish law, and so if it comes out of the Bible, if there's no purgatory mentioned, there isn't going to be one.
Mm-hmm.
So you're either up or down. And I say to Sebastian all the time, I say, you know, I think I've done the down part here. I want to do the up part the next place. I've had enough of the down.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I can see where you've had quite a... I remember reading your story on, maybe it was his website. Maybe when he published it, because I never forgot that first statement you made about aborting.
Yeah,
You know, it takes all kinds, let me tell you.
it does. It does. It's interesting because I think when I look back on my life, the first, I don't know, the first 2 to 2.5 decades were really bad. I not only had forgotten where I buried my parents, which I know sounds unbelievable, but at one point I realized I hadn't thought of them for some time. And I added the years together. It was something like 30. I mean, I had not had, it's like they did not, it's like they'd never existed. And I don't know, there must be some psychological term for that. But it's like, it was just like, I cannot burden the rest of my life with these people.
Sure.
And it took an awful, awful long time to get to the point where I could look at what they had done or what she specifically had done and tried to understand it. And also tried to forgive her for it. But, you know, my father was a far cry from innocent because he had many, many women on the side. And I think that she just did not want to have a child by that man.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah. But they stayed married or they divorced?
No, they stayed married. She died first and then he died within almost, it was like 2 weeks apart from each other, which amazed me, as if they had acted for each other. It was, you know, in many ways it was sad. They wasted their lives. they never should have married. They wasted
Right.
their, and they damaged my life, physically,
Were you
emotionally.
the only one they had?
As far as I know,
Oh,
I'm such a philanderer that I spent a lot of time once people had the DNA thing. I mean, when I was young, DNA was just, I think they were starting to realize there was such a thing. But I tried very hard to find anyone who would have been related, because it seems unlikely to me that I was the only pregnancy between my mother and father, and
mm.
any other children. So I looked hard.
That sounds reasonable. Yeah.
I looked hard. I even went back to the hospital I was born in, and I talked to someone in the medical records, and he looked and he could not find anyone else. But I don't believe there was never anyone else.
Well, she never wanted to get pregnant again.
I don't think she ever wanted to get pregnant before or after me.
Oh, so that's why he was maybe out. My husband didn't have a good relation either with his father.
Yeah.
And he brought the curtain down.
Mhm.
And I mean, he brought the curtain down. I mean, I've never been that angry. If I don't like somebody, I stay away from them.
Yeah.
But he was dead when I say brought the curtain down.
Yeah.
He did not think about him. And years later, when his brother called and said he's dying, do you want to talk to him? The older son had made up, and he didn't have as much to make up anyway. He was more spoiled. And my husband got off the phone and he said, "What do you think?" I said, "Well, I can't tell you what to do with your father, but I will say that if whatever you do, if you're going to have guilt afterwards and it's going to ruin your life, no, then don't, then talk to him. But if you can do it and put it behind you, then don't, because that opens a whole can of worms, again." And he had had enough punishment. It wasn't as like yours, but it was enough.
Yeah, it's interesting to see what happens when parents are not good. I mean, you hear about people complaining because their parents are strict, or they weren't strict enough, so the kids made some mistakes. That's very different from living in a situation that is loveless.
Yeah, well, that's terrible.
It's yeah. So, and I don't think many people realize that such a thing can exist, and it does. So what can you do?
Were there neighbors that liked your mother that could have, given you some solace?
No. She had friends that she'd have over to the house, but I was separate from that. She'd just give me a lot of toys and tell me to go play, and so I did.
Oh, I wish I was there to defend, because my Greek temper, I would have taken her by the neck and said, "Now listen, better put on another face when you go out there."
Well, the problem is that if you don't have the love for your children, you can't fake it. They'll know it.
No, that's true. You can't fake it. It's true.
So it's it's just it made me extraordinarily pro-life. Not like weird, but it's like, when I think of the number of babies, or for that matter, at the other end of life where someone is sick or old and they're either euthanized or they have physician-assisted suicide, and it's like, I'm thinking, do you not realize a person only gets one life, and if you take that away from them, there's nothing, whether young, old, unborn, or anything else. And the other thing which fascinated me with the whole abortion issue, and I mean, people think with Roe v. Wade that when that came up, that, that really allowed many, many, many people to have abortions. And it's like I've said to people, what do you think was going on before? They were having abortions, and I had one of my students say, well, that's not true because we know that just before Roe v. Wade, people were stopping having abortions. So how do you know that? And he said, less maternal deaths. And I said, no, that has nothing to do with abortion. That's with the fact that we had discovered blood transfusion and antibiotics, which are the two basic things that killed women for maternal mortality. Was after abortion, there would be infection or you would bleed to death. And it was like, so people don't really realize this is not something new. It's as old as there is civilization of any kind.
Oh, yeah. They had all kinds of ways.
Yeah.
What do you teach?
I teach theology, Roman Catholic theology. I teach dogma, which is the dogma that I teach now is one and triune God in Christology. I have also taught marriage and theology of the body and Catholic social teaching. So the moral theology, I'm able to bring more into the argument about life, and not big. I mean, the students that I have obviously are pro-life. They're going to be priests or they're interested in Catholicism, but they need the arguments. When they go out, they can't look at somebody and say, well, you have to be pro-life and not give anything else. You gotta have a little more than that, kid. So those are the kinds of courses I've taught, for 27 years now.
See, it makes you think. I was lucky to be raised with Jewish kids, so I had a good public school, not like today. And I loved uniforms. Oh, was I happy. We had a 4-point blouse, and except I can't stand wool, but I had to wear an itchy green skirt and a green thing. But I loved wearing a uniform, picking up the same clothes. They're perfect, But I didn't like polishing my shoes, which had to be saddle shoes. Oh, those were terrible. Terrible.
Yeah.
And my mother would say, are you going to wear them like that? I said, well, they're just going to get like that again. So she would clean them. But it made you think. All these things were making you think. And, I was raised in a house where a tradition was important, which I like. And we had to fast and do all this stuff, So it was very complimentary to my own home, where I wouldn't say they were a religious home because that connotates something a little different. God was there. My father had his way of talking about him, and my mother had her way, which was much more strict. And but then when I got into the Catholic schools, all these subjects were so eye-opening. It's such a different look at things. And if you don't have that, I can't imagine being alive and not having an idea to think about or weigh. And my parents were a bit, not with the girls, but with the brother, lenient. It was okay for him to, do whatever.
Yeah.
And they probably didn't even ask him where he was going. So one day I thought to myself, every time I go out, there's a big to-do about it. Meeting a girlfriend. So I decided to leave when my brother left. So I can get out of the house at the same time. We're going together. Oh, okay. Yeah, it was, they were very strict, but I'm not sorry about it. A lot of kids today don't have anything to look forward to. They're already doing it in high school. I couldn't date till I was 21. And my father said, date? What's dating? He came from the old country. My mother was born here. What's dating? I said, don't be silly. What's dating? He said, don't bother with that. I said, well, that's not very realistic.
No. No, it's. Mm-hmm.
But that's was a different era. I mean, it really was.
Oh, sure. Sure.
And the music was better. And, I hate to say it, but they're not going to get as rich as we were in terms of what's possible in our lives.
Culture, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's why you had to put that away. That prior time, you had to, I don't know what you want to call it, bury it or just get rid of it. Like my husband brought the thing down. The wall went up and that was it. And he never tried again. I said, wouldn't you maybe? No. Because I could never forget it. If I forgive him, I could never forget and forgive. Forget and forgive. So if I held on to the lack of forgetting, it would always be on me. You have to wipe it all out.
Yeah.
He said, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to walk away from it. So, and his mother left when he was 3 or 4.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. She thought his father was cruel. And she tried to take them with her to Florida. That's where her parents were. Why she didn't try to get a lawyer, I don't know. But she was an artist and they had money. Stopping that. She was an only child. And he stopped her at the door and said, they're not taking the boys. And once she left the state, of course, he could get her on abandonment. I always felt terrible for him and his brother. I mean, how can you leave your children? I don't know.
No, I don't either.
What?
I don't either. I don't know how you do that.
My mother heard the story and I said, well, she was afraid of him. And my mother looked at me because she wasn't a big talker. She looked at me and she said, I'm going to say it again to you. How do you leave your children? You? And I said, no. I'd fight for them,
Yeah.
But so he grew up with grandparents, which a lot of people did. They grew up with their grandparents.
That's true. They still do.
Did you have grandparents?
Oh, yeah. 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 My mother's mother died when I was only 2 or 3. So I don't remember her. I have pictures of her. And her father lived with us. But part of the abortion story is that he was the person, my grandfather, who I really had loved. He was the person who had gone to the drugstore. He was friends with the druggist, and he's the one who brought back the chemical. No. She told you that too? Yeah, there's no other way I could have found that out. But it's like, so that ended that relationship. Oh,
of course.
Yeah.
There's a cruelty. You're not depressing me at all. I was a psych major.
Yeah, it's really, you have to laugh that anybody could be that stupid. I mean, my mother, God love her. I hate to say that she was stupid, but she really was.
Don't say it. I always say what I think. I do. I've been like that all my life.
Well, I was just a kid, and this was when I realized she was stupid. I was coming down the stairs. We lived in the poor part of Providence, Rhode Island, and there were many different ethnic groups in that area. A lot of immigrants, a lot of very poor, some African Americans. And one day I came down the stairs I came down from the bedroom, and she said, "You let a black man touch you." And I knew no man had touched me, black or white. And I said, "No, I didn't." And she said, "Yes, you did. And I have proof." I said, "What do you mean?" I said, that never happened. And she said, "I just went to wash your slip and there was a black mark on it." And I was like, I could never take her serious. And when she said anything, because it was like, if you are Asian, yellow does not come off your hands. Exactly. If you are African American, black does not come off your hands, and white does not come off of ours. And she looked at me and she said, "Yes, you let a black man touch you," which in itself says she was also a bigot. But,
Today they'd have field day with her. Yeah.
yeah. But, to say that, and I was standing there thinking, and I actually thought to myself, this woman is stupid. And she was.
Yes. Very ignorant. Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't ignorant. She was just stupid.
Oh, okay.
Real difference there. It wasn't that obviously she did not know how to act with other people. She didn't know what she should or shouldn't say, and she never should have told me the story. My life was entirely different. But when you start thinking that skin color comes off of somebody's hand, that you got a problem.
And she was washing how old were you at this time?
I don't know, maybe 10. No, had to have been at least 12 because I already knew she tried to abort me. 12 maybe. I wasn't that old, but it was like, from that point on, I really had trouble taking anything she said seriously.
Sure.
She was obviously not all that smart. I mean, she clearly was not even as smart as me, and I was only a kid. It's like, wow, that can't happen.
Well, I remember asking Adler at one of our seminars in this cultural center. He had written a book that my husband had suggested to him, a philosophical dictionary. Because I said, sometimes, when I read philosophy, I read psychology easier. Sometimes philosophy I had to read and read over.
Yeah.
And my husband didn't have that problem, and Adler didn't have that problem. But I said, maybe it would help if he told Adler, maybe it would help if people knew how you define certain words.
Oh, yeah.
When they're reading your books, because I always have now a phone, I can look up a vocabulary. I always had a dictionary. And in the middle of this, somebody asked, do you feel that children could be born knowing things that they couldn't possibly have learned because they're too young, by 4 or 5 years old? And he said, yes, I think they can be born with certain inclinations to knowledge that nobody taught them. Where did it come from?
Yeah.
I've never believed in a tabula rasa for the brain. It's just not possible to be completely vacant until that first moment. And you rarely remember anything before 4. So I was glad to see that, because I think there are people that have awareness of things that others, they don't have it.
Yeah.
In the same family, and they don't have it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, clearly, not everybody has the same IQ. Not everybody has the same kind of personality that's going to pursue education. And even if they do pursue education, I mean, I've met some smart people. I worked with other doctors all the time. And it's like once in a while, you'll run across someone who knows his subject matter inside out, but would have trouble getting out of a wet paper bag.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that too.
And it's like, I look at that and it's like, that's really weird. How can someone that smart not have that common sense? But it does happen.
Common sense is the most uncommon. I see it all the time. I mean, I also work for a beauty company. I had started Chanel, but every time my husband started a business, I left it and went with him. He started a printing business. And I will tell you that I learned it's such an education to deal with the public. It really should be a course, And if you don't tell people exactly, that's why I get so crazy with some of these people on websites. I said, when you make a website, don't you aim it at the person that's reading it and not for yourself? You already know what it says. But you should be making it so that the stranger can read it and go, oh, okay. Yeah, I get it. They don't do that.
No, yeah.
So I end up spending 2 hours or an hour trying to get through something. And then one day I woke up and I thought, no, I think they're the dummies. I'm not the dummy because I don't get their website. They made a lousy website. And I'm the smart one who said, this is stupid.
Yeah.
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 And when I say that to them, a lot of them laugh because they already know.
Yeah.
And technology is moving so fast, which was when I introduced the center to Sebastian's group, that because faith and science are very close. You better watch both of them, because science without some kind of control is going to take us by the nose, and we're going to be out there accepting things we shouldn't, because they can make robots. They can put your thoughts into something else. Well, what do you want to implant something in me and say, is that all right? What are you going to base that on? I like it, I won't, or maybe I'll make a lot of money on the stock. What are you really doing to the person?
Yeah.
And there's so many people that just go, well, that's the way of the world. No, it isn't.
No.
That's what they want you to think. And the more technology, I read a quote, the less humanity. You still have to have that. You know, some kids said to me, well, you can't teach your children the way you were taught because the world's different. I said, no. You do teach the way I was taught, or the best part of it.
Yeah.
You don't judge how you're going to raise a child by what the world's doing out. The world's crazy.
Yeah.
So you still have to give them a firm basis where they're confident, where they could go do things on their own. Because that just brings fear and anxiety. Yeah. And I said, so you're wrong. I should change the way I would teach somebody because the world says something. You're not going out means you're not going out. Yeah. You can't have a phone is what that means. Why should I let you have a phone? Because everybody else has one. Maybe their parents don't care about them. It's ruined so many. The phone itself. The reason I would want one was for safety. I never thought I'd use a phone or text somebody.
I do like having a phone with me, just because, if I'm driving a long distance or something, you're also just being able to look for maps and things so that you don't get lost in a bad area. So to me, they have a lot of uses, but the problem is that some people, I think they start to think of them as, like a companion or something.
Oh,
they can never put them down. So
they're in the elevator with the phone. Yeah. So I told this one guy, I said, that phones are not allowed on the elevator. And he looks at me and he said, well, I'm on a call. I said, well, you can finish your call. But you're not supposed to. I just wanted to see his reaction. And he was devastated. Yeah. You would have thought I pulled out a gun. Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, when we got off, I said I was just kidding. Yeah. Said, oh, you had me there for a minute. Depend on it like it was gold. Yeah. Yeah. I understand. Believe me. I'd love to hear a person's voice rather than email. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I do think that it's a good tool. And depending on how it's used, and certainly a lot of good can come from it through communication if people are doing the right thing and thinking right. But I think it's more powerful than people are really aware of, because you're bombarded with ideas all day, every day. And I think at some point, for many people, if they hear the same idea 20 times or something, it's like, oh, yeah, that's the truth. And it could be 100% wrong, So it's a good tool if it's used properly. But on the other hand, it can be very dangerous. Well, they drive with it. Oh, I've seen, I can't imagine. It's enough to watch the mirrors. Yeah. They said I have bad eyes. Yeah. Retina and not macular, but just the retina because it's not the way it should be egg-wise.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I got my driver's license, the woman was Greek.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, oh, thank you, God. Now we could get halfway there now. I could maybe get a driver's license. She had me reading something and I had a problem with the right eye. And she said, well, you did very well with the left eye, but I'm going to put down that you have to have a mirror on the right side of your car. And I looked at her and I said, I've always driven with a mirror on both sides. Are you telling me today they don't? You know, I felt like I fell out of the Christmas tree. She said, no, they don't.
Are you serious?
That's what she told me. I said, you have to mandate a mirror on the right? I thought that was normal.
Yes, so did I.
Yeah.
If I can't look in the mirror on the right, I'm not going to drive anymore. I'll get killed.
Well, that's what I told her. I said, no, you can't be telling me the truth. She did put it on my license. She must have a right-hand mirror.
Wow.
You know, there are times when I really do feel I fell off a Christmas tree. That maybe, did I live then? Because there's so many different, the language is different.
Mm-hmm.
They want you to pick up a different language. Why didn't you just say, instead of clicking, I said, you want me to hit, I use the word hit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's click. Well, so what? Means the same thing. Why can't I say I hit it? I hate to give it up. I hate to give up.
Oh my.
But worked.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other thing is, I don't know how your students learn, but do they use the computer to read as opposed to a book?
A lot of people do. Some of the books I use, you can't get on the computer. So in that case, I have to read the book. But yeah, a lot of them do use the reader on the computer.
Mm.
I've never thought of that as being particularly a great idea. If I can't find a book somewhere else, I'll do that. But I don't know, there's something about having the book in your hands and the smell, and just turning the pages, that fact. I prefer that to looking at something on the computer. Yeah.
And you can, absolutely. I can't read anything. In fact, we make journals every week, sometimes more than one, of what Adler's written. Mostly it's what Adler's written. But there were certain philosophers that he liked. Of course, he loved Aristotle and did become a Catholic at the end of his life, which he had been Episcopalian before, and he was Jewish by birth. But where was I going with that? Oh, all of a sudden I forgot where I was going with. I can't read something sitting. I do the journals, but I print them out. I want to take them to where I can have a pen in my hand.
Yes. And
read them and make maybe a note, because I can't read them on the TV, on the screen.
Yeah.
It goes in and out of my head. I want to see the print.
It does. That I've often thought that happens to me too. And I thought the reason it might be happening is because we associate a screen with entertainment. Like watch a movie or you watch the television, we tend to think of something that's digital, that's on a screen, as being entertainment. So I think it's harder for us for some reason, just my imagination here or my thought, but I think it's harder for us to retain anything we read because it's in a different mode of delivery.
I never thought of that.
Yeah.
It is a much more casual kind of thing. And plus, I don't like sitting in a chair. When I want to read, I want my back comfortable. I always have a pen, and I have the phone there for looking up words I don't know. But I can relax, and I have to have a pen. Yeah.
I always have a pencil with me. For some reason, I prefer the mechanical pencils instead of pens or regular pencils. God only knows why I don't.
Well, you have a right. That's a God-given right.
Something weird must have happened to me when I was young. But anyway, so I like the mechanical pencils. And I'll tell you, I'll actually get mad at my husband if I say, can you hand me a pencil? And he hands me a regular lead pencil.
Oh, no. We don't do that here. Yeah. I'll tell you, you have such a great smile. I mean, when I look at you, I think all that you've been through.
Mm.
And you're so easy to congenial.
Thank you.
And your smile is very good. It's happy.
I'm at peace.
Yeah, you are.
I have been for a while. Took a long time to get there. But I am at peace. I'm very happily married. Have a, his family is large. If you count in from my deceased husband and from my husband now, between the three of us, we have 37 descendants. If you count in all the spouses,
Wow.
And so very happy with the family. I'm very happy with my religion. And I'm making a shift now from one job to another that will enable me to do some other things that I've always wanted to do and just couldn't because of time constraints, or how it is when you're trying to get ahead in the rat race. And that's all behind me now. So I'm really at peace and happy. I think also that Sebastian helped me enormously because of the book. I needed to get that out.
Mm-hmm.
All of that information that just kind of rattled around in my brain for, 50 years. And letting that go was just wonderful. And that when I wrote the book, I wrote it because I really had this very strong feeling that maybe some young pregnant girl would just happen to across it and read it and maybe save a baby's life. And, it's like, who knows if that'll ever happen, or it could happen even after I'm dead. The book will still be here.
Mm-hmm.
But I needed to tell that story because I think that people today, even though Roe v. Wade has been overturned in quotation marks, even though that's happened, people still have access to abortion, and to think they don't is silly. And, this isn't going to stop murdering young babies. But I just felt like maybe that story would make people realize. And the other thing, when you look at, like, I used to do genealogy. You start.
That sounds good.
Yeah, you do two people, and the next thing you know, you get a couple of thousand, a few generations down. But you know what? If one of those two people was aborted, no one follows them because there isn't two. And that just struck me. I mean, the world I don't know how long the world will last, but, can you imagine somebody's aborted and, maybe 500, 600 people never get to live that would have if that abortion had not occurred.
Sure.
So to me, it's literally deadly serious. It would have been deadly serious for me, but it was really a driving force. And Sebastian did publish it. People have read it. Hopefully, someone.
I'm going to get it because I want to read it. It doesn't matter the particulars; it's the struggle.
Yeah. Yeah, the only reason that I'm here, because she did get the medicine, she started to drink it.
Oh.
It started to work. And when she told me, I was sitting in the kitchen chair with my back against the window. It was in the summer at night. And I remember watching the cat walk by. Anyway, so she told me, and I never really, I asked her one question. I didn't ask her why. But why she was doing this. I asked her, why did you stop taking the medicine?
Yeah, I was going to ask you that.
And she told me it was because she was afraid she would die.
Yeah, well, that's perfect. Narcissistic, perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I was sitting there thinking, wow, you're stupid. You just told the person that you were going to kill that you didn't want to kill yourself because you're valuable, but mine isn't. Needless to say, that was pretty much the end of the party for the two of us.
But how old were you then when you talked to her, or she talked?
I was 11. Told me.
11. Boy.
And she lived until I was 35. She died when I was 35. They both my parents died when I was 35. But needless to say, things were never the same.
Well, no. Why not just be quiet? Is that something you want to?
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's when somebody tells you a story like that, the reaction has to be, why would you say this to me?
Exactly.
You know, it still amazes me that she was actually that stupid. Yeah. I mean, in some way, I think she thought that was going to draw us close or something.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
So cruel. It's so cruel. If she had said, I stopped because I realized I didn't want to do this, but I stopped because I might die, it's not exactly, you know what I mean?
You gotta laugh.
What?
I mean,
you laugh. It's very important to laugh. I love laughing.
Can you imagine if this was like on a TV show? Nobody would believe that.
Nobody would believe it. No. I could you see what actors we could have play that scene, right? Was she Pretty Woman?
No. She had been a model when she was young, and I assume at that point she was pretty, but she drank a lot. Oh. I mean, and then she started using, this is going to sound weird, but she started using hair dye. And when she used hair dye, she was like dyeing her hair every week to make sure that the white didn't show. I think she went white, like I went white at like 19, 20. And it's like, I'm not going to fight with that. It's just too much white hair.
Yeah, well, you can always dye, yeah. But she dyed her hair. You mean she didn't want to look old?
Right. She dyed her hair so often that she basically went bald.
Oh, she didn't know how to do anything right, did she? Too bad she didn't realize that you were smart.
Oh no, it was really, yeah. You have to laugh at things like this, so you go out of your mind.
Sure, I laugh all the time. I laugh at what I do. I mean, when I pulled that thing in the elevator with that guy, I was actually laughing. I was making myself laugh. That I didn't do it to make him laugh. I was actually having fun, thinking I'll do it this way. I'll see how mad he gets. Yeah, but people always fall for it.
Yeah.
Hey, oh, you can't take that. No, but it's she's really unbelievable. Mm-hmm. She's really. I can't imagine what her relation to her mother was.
I don't know.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
My mother was raised by, her mother died in childbirth. One baby died. This is way back, 1919, I think. And one of the babies died inside, and they didn't know it, and it poisoned her. So she died. So she was, her father, who all the kids, there were 3 of them, loved. And he was a very kind man, but he felt he couldn't take care of them. So he would let them stay with one aunt. Some of these Greek aunts are not to die for, believe me, but to die from, And then there was the other ones, and they had to be cleaning, and they never wanted their father to have a bad report. And I saw it in my mother. A friend of mine mentioned it. She said, I know sometimes you think she's tough. She's a lot tougher than my father. Mm-hmm. But she said, she never had a mother. Mm-hmm. She doesn't know how to be soft, because the ones that were raising her, and I knew them, or not, especially one. She was very cruel. Very, very cruel. Yeah. So, it's when she said that to me, I became more understanding. It helped me that she said, wait a minute. We thought about where she came from. And my father was the opposite. He He wasn't the disciplinarian.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, it was better in her hands because she was serious.
Yeah.
He just was like, I don't want to do anything now. What is she doing? He has me, standing facing the window.
Mm-hmm.
I had done something. I have no memory of anything bad I ever did.
Yeah.
I don't have any memory.
Yeah.
And my father said, what is she doing here? I'm trying to work.
Mm-hmm.
And well, she did this or that. And my father said, well, I think her time's up because I cannot work with her standing there looking out the window being punished. So
Mm-hmm.
I got out of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how he was. Don't put these things on me. I don't want to deal with them.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can, but I cannot remember one bad thing I ever did. I don't know if it just I put it out of my mind. I can't imagine.
Mm-hmm.
To get, a crack or a slap,
Yeah. I know. Well, I
But
guess.
you have very nice features too.
Oh,
you do.
thank you. I've got these horrible lines here and here. I have the howdy doody look.
Well, you just get concealer and put that over there. Concealer.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm always doing something, I always have to. I had a lady the other day and she looked very nice. She was 71.
Mm-hmm.
I said, no, you didn't line your eyes. Why? That would make them look smaller. I said, no, come and sit down.
Yeah.
Come into my cave. And she said, well, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, and your lipstick's kind of dull because I do talk pretty much what I think.
Mm-hmm.
You think it's dull? I said, well, it's not making a statement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I gave her this gorgeous red. And she left as happy as a lark in coming back for skin.
Mm-hmm.
You probably use creams and things or a little bit, no? But you know what a concealer is. Like erase.
Yeah.
Just put that right there.
Mm.
Lighten it up and you can't see that. And then if Sebastian could light you properly, and me, how many times I've gone bananas.
Mm-hmm.
I said, why did they ever invent this? Women were going to see plastic surgeons when they first got on it.
Mm-hmm.
Because they looked horrible.
Yeah.
And they did look horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And other things, and all that, FaceTime, they look better.
Mm-hmm.
So who would buy this? Fix your camera. Yeah, I made him a little sick at the beginning. Yeah, I said, no. I that's not me. My biggest thing was, that's not my nose.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta fix it. But these cameras, they're not the same.
Yeah, that's true.
Phone cameras, forget it.
Yeah, that's true.
But I got my first gray hair in second grade, just to make you feel better.
Yeah, actually, I was never really concerned about the hair. It's really more, my hair, I think, is more white than gray. I do have some gray in it.
Yeah, it's more white.
Yeah. I started when I was about 20, 19, 20, 19 or 20, not 19, 20 the year. And, I did diet for a while and I thought, oh, this is just, it's crazy because you always have this little shadow of white here and, nobody's going to be fooled by that. So I just stopped.
It's a lot of work if you were doing the diet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I just let it grow. And my feeling is if people don't like the white hair, nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, go, then don't talk to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm like that too. I don't care. If I'm happy, then they should be happy.
Mm-hmm.
But, when you're in that business, you can't help but wanna show people a better way.
Mm-hmm.
Look, you just can't help it.
Well, there's a difference between putting on makeup and dyeing your hair. There's a big difference.
Well, that's true. Yeah. Now, my cousin has to have hers done every 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It's expensive, and I don't like the color. It's very dark, and when you get older,
it doesn't look.
The tailor doesn't look good.
Yeah, yeah.
Didn't even look good on her.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? The dark against the
dark. Yeah, I agree. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well,
the camera keeps moving. Are you aware of that?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, well, it's fine. I mean, pretty much it stays straight, but every once in a while, he can probably fix it.
Okay.
What is that? That? Okay.
Mhm.
I
And
was just thinking about it.
I have to get going.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I've really enjoyed talking to you.
Me too. Me too. And you know, I wasn't like prepared, and he said, "No, you'll like it." So I said, "Okay."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I run all my interviews as a conversation. I can't think of anything worse than sitting there with a list of questions and saying, "What did you mean by?" Or, "Oh, yeah."
Yes. Well, that's what I was afraid of. And then he told me she likes to do them this way. I said, "Oh, well, that's better." That's
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. Well, it's much more natural. And I think that it's also much more fun. I mean,
Yes.
you barely see people laugh during an interview where they're asking questions, but we've been laughing plenty.
Yeah. Well, if I don't think I'd be here if I wasn't able to laugh.
Yeah.
My father had a great sense of humor. I thank God we inherited that. All of us, my brother and sister.
Good.
We'd be in funny situations, and I'd look at her and say, "Well, we got what we wanted, didn't we?" And then she'd start laughing. No matter how bad, we got it.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. I love people that laugh. It's so boring when.
Mhm.
But I'm going to get the book. I'm going to talk to him because I
Okay.
really want to see what you went through. I wanted to ask you one thing though.
Mhm.
When you went to write this, did you have a lot of anxiety bringing up these thoughts that you had maybe put back? No.
No. I had thought for years about what I wanted to write, not like on a daily basis or a weekly basis, but in my mind, I knew the order in which I wanted to address things, and exactly how much I would reveal about negative situations.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't that I was thinking about it constantly, but it was something. It's like, if somebody says, "Oh, gee, I want to go to Rome before I die," and every once in a while that thought will go through their mind. Although that's much more positive than my thoughts, But I was like, "Oh, I've got to remember to say this. I've got to remember." I had an abusive uncle. It was actually my mother's uncle. I had a really rotten life.
Really was heavy.
I was rotten, but I came out okay.
And look what you have now is the antithesis.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so when I look back and I see that, it's like, well, I had a really rotten youth, but youth is only, maybe 20 years or so, and then it's over. You're going to spend 52 years letting that destroy? No.
Imagine how miserable they all were, though.
Yeah.
I had a therapist that said to me once, "Misery does not love company. He loves miserable company."
Yeah. That's true.
And I said, "That's true, yeah."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, my mother did teach me things. I mean, I would watch her. She had an uncle that would come to the house every day, and he had cancer. And she always was like, "Oh, I'm so glad to see you. I miss you." He'd walk down the street. He lived up on maybe 10 houses away. And then he'd leave and she'd complain about him for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, you're not honest.
No.
Here's a man who's coming to see his niece, thinking she's glad to see him every day, and she hates seeing him every day. So I mean, I learned a lot of what not to do.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Yeah.
My husband used to say, "I don't know how you know what you know, because you were kept so strict." I said, "Well, there's no harm in observing. I don't have to stick my finger in a light socket to know."
That's
And I said, I watched my other girlfriends who I had one idea about, and then they told me what really was happening, and my mouth would drop, and then I would start talking to them, and I'd see the consequences of some of this.
Yeah.
That's how I learned.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not by doing it.
Mhm.
You know, it's pretty dumb to do that. I mean, I didn't have to tell me, don't stick it in there, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But and then you became very wise, actually,
Well,
whether
I don't
you
know.
realize it or not.
I don't know if I'd call myself wise, but I'm certainly street savvy.
Well, yeah. Well, that's a form.
Theologians go around saying, well, I'm street savvy.
Yeah.
Or-
Whatever you've done with the street savvy or whatever, you're very aware. And, you know, you have to learn and then have knowledge and then understanding. And then you get to wisdom. Well, you've had all of that.
Yeah, I guess.
1, 2, 3. Well, it didn't happen 1, 2, 3, but
No, it didn't.
you ended up with it.
Yeah.
See?
I do.
Okay.
Well, okay. Well, I want to thank you for this interview. I had a great time.
Oh, great. I did too. And here I was wondering, you know, how am I going to do this off the cuff? And he said, don't worry about it.
Off the cuff is always better than scripted.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, Elaine, I have really enjoyed.
Me too. Thank you very much. It's been a
yeah.
pleasure. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Hello, God's beloved. I'm Annabelle Mosley, author, professor of theology, and host of Then Sings My Soul and Destination Sainthood on WCAT Radio. I invite you to listen in and find inspiration along this sacred journey we're traveling together to make our lives a masterpiece and, with God's grace, become saints. Join me, Annabelle Mosley, for Then Sings My Soul and Destination Sainthood on WCAT Radio. God bless you. Remember, you're never alone. God is always with you.
Thank you for listening to a production of WCAT Radio. Please join us in our mission of evangelization. And don't forget, love lifts up when knowledge takes flight.